Hello there and welcome back to the next Jog Pod, and this Jog Pod is the second section, the second page of the Knowledge Organiser for Urban Futures, and I am joined with Mr. Unite. Mr. Unite, say hello.
Hello everyone.
Brilliant. So we are going to start off by just looking at the final kind of keywords that there are in relation to urban futures based on the last Jog Pod. So these are obviously all related, and actually we used some of these words in the last Jog Pod and we related to some of them. So let's start with informal housing. And this is technically, housing that's informal. It's housing that's built on land which does not belong to the people who've built on it. Okay, so it's not built by law. It's illegal housing. All right, and this usually you find in LIDC cities, in slums or favelas or shanty towns, and this is where lots of people end up moving to, and more of these are built. Next one then is internal growth. Now this is growth of a population in size as a result of what happens in that population. So that may be due to what's called natural increase, which is how the population is naturally increasing because of adults having children. But it also may be because of the amount of people arriving in cities from rural areas. And it mostly occurs in LIDCs because of the amounts and numbers of people moving into these city areas. Mr. Unite, move over. There we go.
It's almost perfect, Simon.
Smooth. So the Greenbelt area, I mentioned this in the last Jog Pod as well. This is literally a protected zone of land around city areas where new building is restricted and controlled, and it means that cities cannot grow too fast or too wide. So it basically is rural protection for land. It protects habitats and wildlife in rural areas. And finally, one last urbanization term, and that is con-urbanization. Now, a con-urbanizational area or a con-urban area is comprised of a number of cities, large towns, and other urban areas that, through population growth, have merged to form one continuous urban developed area. Okay, so this is where a number of areas come together almost in a band or in a pattern to form one continuous urban area. For example, in the West Midlands and towards the north of the UK, we've got Coventry, Wolverhampton, Walsall, West Bromwich, Solihull. They're all very close by and they form a con-urban area. So large towns and cities together. Mr. Unite.
Awesome, like that. We're going to use that term again in a second. So the key thing for this, okay, is as we said in the previous Jog Pod, within this, okay, you're going to look at some challenges and opportunities. The first one we're going to look at is our EDC country, which is going to be ourselves for once, where we're going to be looking at Birmingham and some opportunities and challenges that exist there. So I'll run through these key first bits a little bit quicker, and I'll spend a bit more time on the opportunities and challenges for you. But essentially, in terms of where Birmingham is, I'm sure most of you have maybe got some idea. It's quite iconic in terms of if you've watched things like Peaky Blinders and stuff like that. But Birmingham is sort of a large city, okay, that is found sort of in the middle of England. And this is a key reason when we think about why it's important, because of its central location. If we go back to sort of the industrial times, it was in the middle of all the canals. It's got great access to roads and stuff like that. So although it's not necessarily on a river or a coastal area, which traditionally is good for trade, it was in the centre of England. So this is why it's our second largest in the UK. And within it, as Mr. Hadler talked about, it is a conurbation of which other areas nearby, okay, are Walsall and Coventry. Obviously, it means it's easy to trade, to move, for people to sort of move between them for jobs, for work, that sort of stuff. So it's a large conurbation. In terms of its importance, okay, for us, okay, there's things such as 8 universities within it, okay. It's got the fastest job growth rate in the country, and some of you may know, okay, for the chocolate, we've got Bourneville there, etc. But it's also known for being a large manufacturing centre. If you know a bit about music as well, Black Sabbath were from there as well, and their sort of name and their songs were based around sort of the sound of the manufacturing and stuff like that before. So there we go. Nice little brief introduction to why it's important. In terms of migration, the most important thing to remember is, again, a little link back to the UK in the 21st century. As you know, the UK is part of the Commonwealth. Okay, so we have people who are from maybe the Caribbean and Pakistan that moved to the UK in the 1950s. Okay, we have the Windrush generation in particular for the Caribbean. Okay, and they would decide to move over to the UK to have some benefits of being part of our ex-colonies and as part of the Commonwealth. Again, there always likes to be a nice Irish community as well, so there is definitely an Irish community there as well. And in more recent times after World War II, and as part of our membership at the time of the European Union, Eastern Europeans from places like Poland were able to then move into Birmingham to look for jobs and new opportunities. Similar principles to what we've looked at in terms of urbanisation in LIDCs, but we were just moving between these after key events like World War II, where people wanted to improve their quality of life by living somewhere with more jobs and more opportunities. In terms of the way of life, okay, it's a very diverse city. Okay, if you have any sort of idea about sport as well, there's people like Moe and Ali that are a nice indication of the sort of culture that exists there. Now, as you will know, if you remember doing it, we talk about the Bull Ring later, so it's got lots of benefits of living there, major areas, and obviously excellent transport links with the rest of the country. In particular, we have a word called commuter, and a commuter is someone who moves outside of their general place that they live to go and work in another area. Okay, so if we think about places like Sheffield and Billsway, people generally commute to London via the A1 and obviously the train services as well. And as I'm sure, as with many cities, there's good entertainment centres and nightlife there as well. So this concludes really the background to Birmingham. The key things we really want to think about though are the challenges and the opportunities and the things that were done there. Okay, so in terms of the challenges, okay, we've got a few key ones down here. One, there is a lack of affordable housing, especially for the younger generation. Well, as the places become more popular, we've got the entertainment, demand for those areas goes up. As trade and the economy grows, jobs and wealth will increase, but that pushes out the sort of generations that don't necessarily have the same level of income. So therefore, it was very hard for young people to get on the property ladder. Within this same area, within those sort of ethnic groups and within the sort of the different equalities, there was great levels of deprivation and poverty, in particular, again, for young people, but within certain communities there as well. And what we found as well with those 8 universities, there is a process called studentification. Essentially, the process of an area becoming quite heavily filled, really, or dominated by student life. So having lots of physical students around, and then their businesses and shops changing to suit them. Maybe coffee shops, pubs, clubs, for example. Maybe potentially some fashion wear for those that are liking to use to spend their student loan, maybe not on textbooks. The rapid increase in population therefore then created pressures on transport and services such as education, because in the same areas we started having an increase of population, an increase in maybe different age groups as well, which created problems within them. One of the things that was linked to this, though, was the boring redevelopment. So how did we try and create more opportunities, get rid of that poverty, remove that deprivation, decrease the problems of transport? Okay, so the boring was part of the way that they would do this. As part of that, that area was redeveloped. So like Mr. Hatchell talked about earlier, it was some areas that were previously industrial or what were brownfield sites. And they were redeveloped to offer more services. So again, if you go there, there's a major shopping centre, as you can see in that second point. People travel far and wide. Previously, we used the word or phrase, sphere of influence. And people will travel, even from here, I've been there as well, to go for a day, maybe for a weekend, spend the weekend in a hotel, shopping malls, etc., and some of the icons that are there. So people will travel far for it. That's a great benefit. With that came more investment in transport and infrastructure, business, sort of buses and bus routes, improving of the local railway stations as well. I've forgotten the name of the railway station there, so maybe you help me in a second. But also we've got the Bull Ring there as well, which is obviously really key. So it's the major shopping centre that provides an area. Yes, sir.
It is Birmingham New Street.
That's the one. I've been there loads of times. I used to go to my festival there, and I just had a bit of a mind blank. Yeah, so I remember being there, and again, that was significantly changed. And if you go there, I think they've still got some pictures of what it used to be like as well. So that's a really summary.
That location is amazing. It's a shopping centre in itself.
Oh, well, there we go. I think we've all been reasonably recently for different reasons. So yeah, geography department having a nice little visit to Birmingham for that particular thing. So, Mr. Hatchell, with this then, obviously we've had a chance to look through Birmingham so far. Anything else you want to feed in or pass on from bits that maybe you covered as well?
Nothing really, apart from with the traffic problems and general traffic that's built up in Birmingham over recent years. What they've actually done is two things. One, most of Birmingham is now one way in the city centre. And actually, second, I was only there very recently, and Broad Street, which is like the main strip of Birmingham for all of the hotels, bars, restaurants, etc., is now completely basically pedestrianised, and they've built a tram system on it. So there's a new tram system, and that is aimed at combating the traffic problems.
Yeah, it's like that. I've not seen the tram system. That'd be pretty cool.
Amazing.
I've been on a tram before.
Oh.
No, that is me suffering, isn't it? There.
Yeah. Now, Mr. United, you've got 4.5 minutes.
Oh, right, okay, let's do it super quick. Right, in this area, okay, you could be asked to use either an LIDC or EDC, or generally use those two terms. Essentially, we're looking at challenges and opportunities in a less developed country. For you, we use an EDC, we use Turkey and the city of Istanbul. Really quickly, as you can see from the map here, okay, Turkey is split, okay, by what's called the Bosphorus Strait. Istanbul is in this part that used to be called Thrace and Thracians, if we go back to like Roman times. And there's essentially a nice little line down here. So it actually forms part of the continent of Europe, whereas actually the majority of Turkey and the capital Ankara are within Asia. So why is this important then? As I mentioned earlier, it used to be part of the Roman and Ottoman empires. Istanbul was the capital, as I said, but now it's Ankara. I'm sure you've probably seen some Turkish restaurants around in your town starting to spring up as well. In particular, something called Bosphorus, after the Bosphorus Strait. Okay. In terms of migration, well, how is it different? Well, a little bit different to Birmingham, okay, but the similar sort of principles apply. We've got people moving from other countries, in particular, okay, North Africa and areas sort of in the Middle East, such as Syria, as a result of war. So a good example there of sort of a push factor of why someone might want to leave a country. Okay, but otherwise in this area we are seeing that process of urbanization that we talked about in our previous job pod, people moving from the rural areas to the urban areas to seek, as it says here, a better quality of life in the city. Some key things about the way of life there, okay, as I'm sure you know, we talked about Turkish restaurants, things like that, Turkish delight, whatever you want to do. There's got a wide range of culture, in particular being across Europe and Asia and being part of those previous empires, meaning it's got a really wide range of cultures that you can really go and see. And obviously the climate, very nice, etc. Really good access to Europe as well. So lots of opportunities for tourism. So for those that are able to travel abroad, if you've not been to Greece or Turkey, I'll be surprised. Such a common thing for people in the UK to do. So what's the key challenges here then? Okay, as we can see here, housing, informal sector jobs, traffic congestion. Housing. In Istanbul, a key thing was that slum and shanty housing that had been erected in Istanbul over the past 30 years as a rise of that rapid urbanization. As we've talked about on previous slides, the general impact of that are overcrowding, reduced quality of life, potential rise of crime, those same things we talked about before. There was also that rise of what we call that informal sector jobs. Remember last lesson I talked about those jobs that maybe don't necessarily have a contract, they don't have a guaranteed wage. It might be simply someone working and brushing, some shoes on the side of a street. So they work for very little money and they don't generally be involved in the tax system. So they don't contribute to the whole economy in that sense. And finally, a key one, traffic in Istanbul was awful. It was one of the worst cities in the world for traffic. So what were some of the things they did to try and change this? As you can see here, it says self-help skirt. It just needs to be self-help schemes. We'll try and make sure that's changed for you when it uploads. But essentially, there are two key things we might try and think about here. One, in the same way that we talked about that studentification earlier, well, we can try to entice those young professionals. So not students, people who are professional. They go for a job. With that, they bring more money that they want to spend in the local jobs and areas. That helps to invest in the area, increases the tax base, which can then be used to improve things such as, the refuse system, so the bins. It could be to go invested in schools and other areas of education and those sort of areas. Ultimately, this increase of young professionals, increase in the wages, has a knock-on impact of improving standards of housing and improving quality of life. The metro system is a sustainable form of transport, okay, and that has been expanded. That means it tries to get as many cars off the road as possible, improving air quality, as well as making sure that obviously within it, people are able to travel by more, because you have more people on a train carriage than in a car, which reduces, again, air quality problems and makes sure that, again, that traffic congestion that existed. in those areas, it was an average speed per hour of about 8 to 10 kilometers, not particularly fast, you know, in terms of that speed. So you can see the real problem that they were having there. If you're in that sort of moving around the city at 8 to 10 kilometers an hour, you're stopping and starting your car loads. You're using up lots of fuel, you're giving off lots of greenhouse gases, etc., from your car. And as a result, air quality, social and environmental impacts are very severe. Right, sir, I was conscious you said 4.5 minutes or so. Anything to summarise? Otherwise, how did I do?
You have done exactly 4.5 minutes.
Brilliant. Oh, what a win. Yes, superb, ladies and gentlemen.
Amazing. I would not really add anything to that. I think that's definitely enough for Istanbul. Basically, ladies and gents, remember, you will either be asked for the 6 or 8 mark question in your exam about challenges in a city that you've studied, AC or EDC, or challenges and solutions, okay? So it could be either of them. Really focus on those challenges and solutions in your AC and EDC, and you should be absolutely fine. Right, so, Mr. Unite, I'm going to end there.
Right,
thank you
really
very
good.
much. Well done, and please keep an eye out for the next jog pods coming your way.
Thank you very much.